Magic Johnson. A name that echoes with such power it feels etched into the very fabric of American sports. An immortal icon in the hearts of millions of basketball fans around the world. He wasn't just the greatest point guard to ever play the game. He was a force of nature, a living storm that redefined basketball as both an art and an experience. Magic was the heartbeat of the Showtime Lakers, the man who turned Los Angeles into a dynasty, who transformed the sport into pure spectacle and turned every arena he stepped into a cathedral of awe. 5 NBA championships, 3 MVP awards, 12 All-Star selections, over 17,000 points, and more than 10,000 assists. These numbers aren't just impressive, they roar. Yet, when the world thought he was done, when life tried to drag him into the ashes of despair, Magic didn't just rise, he erupted. From the rubble of tragedy, he built a $1.5 billion empire, becoming one of America's most influential athlete entrepreneurs. But even giants can't outrun pain. Beneath the rings, the empire, the accolades, lay the scars of illness, betrayal, loss, the violent storms that nearly unraveled his entire world. And now, at 66, what new struggle does fate have in store for him? If you're ready to take this journey through the fire and the glory of this extraordinary life, give this video a like in honor of the man who rose from nothing to redefine the American dream. The world knows the legend, but few understand the cruel names that once cut deeper than any defeat he ever faced. Magic Johnson entered this world on August 14, 1959 in Lansing, Michigan. Born into a small home where 10 siblings shared beds, blankets, and air that often felt too thin to breathe. The Johnson family wasn't just poor. They lived at the edge of hardship, every corner of their home touched by its cold shadow. His father, Irvin Sr., worked long shifts at a General Motors plant, and before the sun rose at 4 a.m., he was driving a garbage truck. His mother, Christine, worked tirelessly, cleaning classrooms until her hands burned. Magic would later say, "I could hear my mother sigh before I saw her face. That's how I knew she was tired." Poverty didn't knock at their door. It lived with them, ate with them, stood in the same rooms where joy tried to survive. But the deepest wounds didn't come from hunger or cold. They came from humiliation. From 1964 to 1967, when Magic would ride beside his father on those weekend trash routes, the pain didn't come from the freezing metal bins. It came from the eyes of the neighbors, children on porches whispering, snickering, and turning their voices into cruel nicknames that would cling to him for years. Trash boy. They didn't just say it once. They said it over and over again, a rhythmic taunt he could predict. Years later, Magic would confess, "It stayed with me." That name stayed longer than any smell. Monday mornings became a battlefield, where he didn't pray for good grades. He prayed for invisibility. He tried brushing the garbage smell off his coat, but the sting of embarrassment clung harder. At 7 years old, he thought, why does doing the right thing hurt so much? Each step toward school felt like carrying a weight heavier than any trash bag he ever carried. It was the kind of wound that doesn't bleed, but changes a life forever. Then came the wound that cut even deeper, the wound of being unwanted. In 1971, when school integration reshaped Lansing, Magic thought he would finally be able to attend Stone High, a predominantly black school where he felt he could breathe freely. Instead, the district sent him to Everett High, an overwhelmingly white school, unwelcoming and in many areas openly hostile. The bus carrying black students was pelted with stones. Sometimes the windows shook so violently that he clenched his fists in silence. Inside the gym, teammates refused to pass him the ball. Conversations halted when he entered the locker room. Coaches ignored him, treating him as though he were invisible. The message hit him like a hammer. You do not belong here. He would reflect on it years later. There's a look people give you, the kind that says your presence is a mistake. That loneliness didn't scream. It suffocated. It made a 14-year-old Irvin Johnson wonder if the world had already drawn a small, tight circle he wasn't meant to fit inside. But even as these wounds tightened around him, something fierce inside refused to die. Before dawn in 1973, around 5 a.m., while Lansing still slept, Magic snuck onto the empty concrete courts behind his neighborhood. Michigan's winter bit into his skin. His breath rose like smoke. His hands trembled as they gripped the basketball. But here, there was no one to mock him, no one to turn away, no one to question his worth. The court didn't care about race, poverty, or the echoes of "trash boy" still lodged in his memory. It welcomed him, fiercely, completely. And so he poured every insult, every cold stare, every tear he had cried into the rhythm of the ball. Dribble, step, pass. His no-look passes weren't born of flair. They were born of survival, of the desperate need to create a world where he mattered. Under the pale sky of those early mornings in the 1970s, a fragile belief began to burn. Maybe he did have value beyond the garbage routes. Maybe he could rise above the humiliation. Maybe one day no one would ever dare laugh again. And so, before the world would ever witness his greatness, the fire that would astonish it had already begun to roar. Magic's greatness didn't emerge from arenas and accolades. It was forged in places far colder, far crueler. It's a miracle he survived them at all. His rise began not beneath bright arena lights, but through doubt, humiliation, and the relentless fight to prove he was more than life had told him he was. By the early 1970s, Irvin Johnson, Jr., standing nearly 6'7", was growing into the powerful frame the world would one day marvel at. But height couldn't shield him from the brutal truth outside his door. Lansing's winters sliced through thin jackets, and each walk to school felt like trudging through a world determined to remind him of his place. The cold wasn't just outside, it was inside me too, he later admitted. Yet, destiny often lies hidden within suffering, and his destiny ignited one night in 1974. In a dim high school gym, the smell of dust and old wood heavy in the air, Magic's body seemed powered by something greater than muscle. He scored 36 points, grabbed 18 rebounds, and dished out 16 assists. Numbers that didn't belong to a teenager. They belonged to a phenomenon being born. A local reporter, stunned by the stats, looked up and whispered the word that would follow Magic for the rest of his life. Magic. Hearing that name, Magic froze. Part of him loved it. Part of him feared he wouldn't live up to it. Triumph came tangled in doubt. When he ran home to tell his mother, Christine, who had always carried the family through hardship, she warned him gently. Only God performs magic. Who was he to wear a name so grand? What if the world laughed again? But the world didn't laugh. America embraced him, and Magic became both the crown and the weight he would carry forever. But if destiny shaped him, tragedy carved him even deeper. In 1976, at 17, Magic lost Reggie Chastain, his closest friend and teammate. The one person who believed in him when no one else would. Reggie was the only one who passed him the ball when others ignored him, the only one who saw beyond the labels, the one who stayed when everyone else turned away. When Reggie died in a car accident at just 18, Magic was shattered. He was the first person who truly believed in me, Magic would say. Reggie wasn't just a friend. He was the safe place Magic could escape to. Losing him wasn't just an event, it was an earthquake. For weeks, Magic stood in front of Reggie's empty locker, whispering, "I'm still here. I'm not done." The grief didn't weaken him, it forged him. And when Everett High won the Michigan State Championship the following year, Magic didn't celebrate with fists in the air. He lifted the trophy slowly, deliberately, pointing it toward the rafters as if offering it to the friend who should have been there. It wasn't a victory, it was a vow fulfilled. Then came Michigan State University in 1977, where Magic stepped onto campus carrying more than just a duffel bag. He carried every harsh whisper from Lansing streets, every 5 a.m. practice in freezing cold, every moment Reggie had supported him. Practices under coach Judd Heathcote were grueling, but Magic had already endured far harsher silences, far colder rooms. Pain had trained him long before any coach could. Slowly, the world began to see what was coming. Magic wasn't just a player, he was a force forged by hunger, loss, and an unbreakable will to honor the one friend who had seen greatness in him before anyone else. By 1979, when Magic faced off against Larry Bird in the legendary NCAA Finals, he wasn't playing for headlines. He wasn't playing for applause. He was playing for destiny, for the boy who practiced alone in the cold mornings, for the friend whose locker still echoed in his mind, for every wound that had made him who he was. And on that night, Magic didn't just win. He took control. He turned the court into his kingdom. He played with a fire that had burned since those cold Michigan mornings. Magic didn't shine because life was kind. He shone because life tried time and time again to break him, and it failed.